Welcome to the Supreme Court Podcast. All opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views of the Supreme Court. For clarity, the text of the decision prevails.
On October 14, 2022, the Supreme Court formally launched the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations 2022 to 2027, or the SPJI. It is the court's blueprint of action for judicial reforms. The SPJI is the brainchild of Chief Justice Alexander G. Gesmundo, who has been its driving force since its inception. While the Chief Justice is set to hang his judicial robe in November 2026, the programs under the SPJI are expected to continue beyond his retirement, backed by the full support of other members of the court. Chief Justice Gesmundo is optimistic that his colleagues at the Supreme Court are committed to continuing the SPJI, ensuring that the changes and progress initiated under his leadership will endure even after his retirement. Hi, I'm Attorney Mike Navalio, Supreme Court Chief Communications Officer. It's the 14th of March 2025. In this latest episode, we feature the interview of Chief Justice Alexander G. Gesmundo by Supreme Court spokesperson, Attorney Camille Sue May L. Ting, on the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations. The interview was presented at the recently concluded Philippine Women Judges Association's 2025 Annual Convention held at the Manila Hotel from March 5 to 7, 2025. Listen as Chief Justice Gesmundo shares his insights and updates on the SPJI, his vision for the judiciary, and his plans for the remainder of his tenure.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. Much has been said about the SPJI, the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations 2022 to 2027. We have just heard from the Honorable Justices of the Supreme Court as they shared key developments and programs under this landmark initiative. Now, we turn our attention to the man who started it all. While he always emphasizes that the SPJI is a collaborative effort of all the 15 justices of the court, history will remember the SPJI as the brainchild of the 27th Chief Justice of the Philippine Supreme Court, the Honorable Alexander G. Gesmundo. Of course, we have all heard the Chief Justice speak about the SPJI for the past 2.5 years. He has gone back and forth across the country to propagate awareness of the SPJI and the activities under it. But today, we take a different approach, one that is more personal, in-depth, and reflective. So, everybody, this is a rare opportunity to hear directly from the Chief Justice as he shares not only his insights on the SPJI, but also his overall vision for the judiciary, his plans for the remainder of his tenure, and perhaps even a glimpse into life beyond the Supreme Court. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Chief Justice Alexander G. Gesmundo, up close and personal. Hello, Chief.
Hello, Camille.
First off, Chief, this SPJI, how did it start and what made you come up with such a vision?
It started when I was appointed as Chief Justice way back in April 5, 2021. I thought that I should make a comprehensive development plan for the Supreme Court and the entire judiciary. I asked a small group of people to make the initial study. It took some time to come up with the SPJI as there were many issues that were needed to be addressed in the judiciary. It was sometime in May 2022 that I was able to present the initial draft of the SPJI to the Supreme Court and Bank, and there the justices gave their inputs and insights on what will be known today as the SPJI. It was eventually approved by the NBank under AM number 22-04-026-SC with the inputs and support of all the magistrates of the Supreme Court. Finally, it was launched in October 2022 for the public.
So, Chief, it was launched in October 2022. But when did you first realize the need for such a plan? Was it during your time at the Office of the Solicitor General, or was it during your time at the Sandiganbayan?
I conceptualized the formulation of the SPJI when I was appointed as Chief Justice in April 2021. I look at the previous Chief Justices' projects and activities. The previous Chief Justices have brilliant ideas, plans, and projects, and I simply merged and crafted their previous visions for the court, updated their programs, and included their inputs in the SPJI. I'm grateful to my predecessors for laying the foundation of the SPJI.
So, Chief, you continued and improved on your predecessors' efforts. When you became Chief Justice, what did you see as the biggest challenge facing the judiciary or the most difficult issue to fix?
There are two things that I want to focus immediately when I was conceptualizing the SPJI. First, low public trust, and second, low budgetary allocation and lack of fiscal autonomy. Low public trust. Fundamental to a regime of the rule of law is that the public must trust the institutions that uphold the rule of law. The courts are key actors in this. But the consistent low trust ratings meant that not only was the public dissatisfied with our performance, but more problematic that the public is unaware of what we are doing or simply does not understand it. Second, low budgetary allocation and lack of fiscal autonomy. This is related to the first. Even the two other branches of government still think that courts traditionally just decide cases. So you see a budget that simply limits the judiciary to infrastructure for courthouses and the usual allocations for salaries, capital outlay, MOE. They did not understand that the task of administration of justice is all-encompassing and involves both adjudicative and administrative processes. In the past years, as people, including the executive and legislative, understood better what we actually need to do, our budget has steadily increased.
How have we addressed the issue of low public trust?
Well, in respect to the first, we have to restructure the PIO by engaging directly with the people and reaching out in ways never before used by the court, like the use of social media, the town hall meetings, caravans, and information drives.
Thank you very much, Chief. We are also aware that there was an increase in the public engagement with the Supreme Court through our social media platforms, especially on Facebook, Chief. Now, back to the SPJI. One important aspect is the use of technology to achieve judicial innovations. What made you see technology as a crucial solution to the challenges facing the judiciary?
Well, basically, Camille, automation is given under the present circumstances, and transformation is a necessity. If we speak of efficiency, technology is the key. Ang teknolohiya ay isang mahalagang solusyon sa mga problema ng hudikatura dahil ito ay nagbibigay ng mas mabilis, episyente at transparent na proseso sa paghahatid ng hustisya. Sa pamamagitan ng digitalization at automation, naiiwasan ang matagal na proseso ng mano-manong pagpuproseso ng mga kaso, pagbawas ng mga backlog at pagbilis ng desisyon ng mga hukuman.
Have you always been fascinated with technology, Chief? I heard techie po kayo. Since when?
Well, basically, as the technology evolved, I got interested with it. I've been fascinated by technology when it started to evolve. But with respect to the use in the judiciary, I saw during my opportunity to engage in other jurisdiction how technology was used to leverage the court operation system. For instance, when I visited Korea way back in 2008, I saw how the use of technology in courts speed up their adjudication process. That's why when I became a Chief Justice, I knew that it's through technology that we'll be able to boost the overall efficiency and promote the access to all our courts.
And Chief, what about artificial intelligence?
Attorney Camille, ang artificial intelligence or AI, lagi nating naririnig yung mga panahon nito. Ang artificial intelligence ay isang teknolohiya na ginagaya ang talino ng tao para sa pag-aaral, pagdedesisyon at paglutas ng problema. May tatlong uri ito. Narrow AI na ginagamit sa mga tiyak na gawain tulad ng chatbots at virtual assistants. Generative AI na may kakayang mag-isip tulad ng tao at super AI na maposibleng mas matalino pa sa tao. Ginagamit ang AI sa mga korte, ospital, negosyo, sasakyan, paaralan para maging mas madali at mabilis ang trabaho.
Yes, Chief. There are now many AI apps like ChatGPT. A question in our minds. Can we use AI apps to draft decisions, pleadings, and other court processes? What are the limits of AI use pending the governance framework for its adoption? And would it be possible to use AI as a research tool while ensuring that judicial decisions are still written by actual people?
Okay. Ang AI mayroong limitasyon sa paggamit lalo na sa hudikatura. Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin ang AI para palitan ng proseso ng pagdedesisyon sapagkat ang pagdedesisyon ay nakaatang sa isang maestrado. Ang AI makakatulong sa mga bagay na pagpapabilis lamang ng pagpuproseso. For example, pwedeng gawin ng AI ang legal research. Sa kasalukuyan, ang judiciary sa Pilipinas ay gumagamit ng limited application of AI. Katulad halimbawa ng ginagamit natin na yun, sinubukan natin yung voice-to-text transcription na ginagamit ng ating mga stenographer. Pangalawa, sinusubukan natin gamitin ang AI sa legal research. May dagdag ko lang, We have launched our revised book on judicial forms for our civil actions, including special proceedings. Once approved, we'll have volume 2 of that, the forms in criminal procedure. And these templates can now be easily utilized with AI to assist our judges, even practitioners. AI is also a very handy tool for research, but we must always stress that the Constitution refers to a decision rendered by a court, not by ChatGPT, stating clearly and distinctly that the facts and the law on which it is based pursuant to Article 8, Section 14 of the Constitution. The reason why we are judges is because we have discretion from which our authority flows. If we surrender this discretion to an electronic device, it would be tantamount to an abdication of our duty.
Yes, Chief. And connected to this, how can we ensure that AI does not compromise the fundamental principles of due process and fairness in court proceedings?
Well, technology is a tool. Ang teknolohiya ay isang kasangkapan. Kagaya ng lahat ng kasangkapan, ito ay may pros and cons. Because judges are the superior beings here because we have discretion and we are experts in the law, then we ought to know how to use all our tools without sacrificing fundamental rights. Let me give you an example. In the service of notices and court orders and pleadings under our proposed new rules of civil procedure and the rules on e-filing, electronic service will now be the priority mode of service and filing. As we shift to electronic service and filing, as judges, we must be vigilant in safeguarding each litigant's right to their day in court.
At this point, Chief, I would like to share this question from the PWJA. To what extent should SPJI prioritize technological solutions over traditional judicial processes? I'll add to the question, Chief. Do you see a possible conflict between these technological solutions and those court processes that we have already gotten used to?
Kaya ng kasasabi ko lang, walang dapat ipangamba sa paggamit ng teknolohiya para maging efficient ang trabaho natin. Conflict wala akong nakikita. Pero yung takot sa paggamit ng bagong sistema, nasisiguro ko na kailangan natin itong harapin, mapasaloob man ng hudikatura o sa labas among our court users.
Chief, speaking of fear of technology, you mentioned po that with change always comes resistance, especially now that we are revising the core structures and processes. Those things we're already used to, mga second nature na po sa atin. What if there are those who resist the changes introduced by the SPJI? We hear often na, naku, matatanda na kami. Di na naman alam yung mga computer, e-filing, or e-court na yan. How do we address these concerns, Chief?
Alam mo, binanggit ko kanina ng umpisa, transformation is necessity. We have anticipated this and so change management is a core activity of the SPJI. We are working with our partners, EU GoJust, on change management in relation to our OCA reorganization and also for our ORCM pilot and nationwide rollout. We are also trying to tap our MOU with the Federal Court of Australia to look at their best practices on change management. Ang mahalaga ay may pakita natin sa mga kasama natin sa judiciary na kailangan ng pagbabago at bibigay natin ang mga kailangan pagsasanay sa kanila upang sila ay maka-adapt sa mga pagbabagong gagawin natin.
It's very good to hear, Chief, and we look forward to that. Another issue po is the limited access to technology, especially for the marginalized communities. It's one thing for judges and lawyers to say po na hindi sila techie, but it's another thing if a community does not have access to the internet or computer devices. So what is our solution for them?
Kasama nga sa gagawin natin yan na lahat ay magkaroon ng access, lahat ng stakeholders, the administration of justice, maka-access sa paggamit ng teknolohiya para mapabilis ang proseso ng mga kaso. At present, we already have partnerships with the IBP chapters where they provide computers with internet connections in the halls of justice for our indigent litigants. We hope that we can also have such free workstations in our halls of justice in the more rural areas of the country. Pipilitin natin na yung mga kailangan makagamit ng computer na hindi maka-afford nito ay magkakaroon ng access. Lalagay natin yan sa mga kung saan-saan natin Hall of Justice sa Pilipinas.
That's great, Chief. Pero sir, how about data privacy concerns? What happens to the data collected on our apps and platforms? And how can we ensure that privacy rights are protected and that we avoid possible abuse?
Okay. Pagdating sa data privacy, we strictly adhere to the law. We have our data privacy officer, Atty. Guerra. Pero para sa akin, mas critical ang kalaman na may palaganap Ano bang data ang dapat na manatiling private? Marami pa rin ang hindi nakakaalam ng mga bagay na ito. Isang magandang bagay na nakikita nyo sa website ng Supreme Court, meron tayo din data privacy provision na kailangan basahin ng sino man kung gagamitin nila ang ating website. Mahalagang ipaalam sa kanila ang kanilang mga karapatan under the data privacy law.
Tama po yan, Chief. Another important question, Chief. Will anyone lose their job because of the technological innovations that we are implementing? Will the judiciary be cutting back on personnel? Because we know when we automate systems, it is inevitable that people who used to do the manual processes will end up being redundant.
Yeah. Paulit-ulit ko nang sinasabi, as we embark on all these changes, no one will be left behind. We'll do the scaling, upskilling, capacity building, and repurposing. Marami naalala mo sa mga event natin, yung mga stenographer una nagtatanong, ano daw ang epekto ng paggamit sa technology sa kanila? Ang sabi, huwag kayong mag-alala. Sapagkat ang technology na gagamitin natin, hindi kailangang alisin ng mga stenographer. Babaguhin lang natin ang sistema ng pagtatrabaho nila. Kung nung araw, shorthand o whatever Greek shorthand ang ginagamit nila, ngayon gagamit na tayo ng voice-to-text transcription. So, anong gagawin ng stenographer? Sila yung mag-e-edit, siguraduhin tama yung voice-to-text transcription na ginagawa ng AI. So, huwag silang matakot. Lahat ng empleyado, pipilitin natin ma-absorb under our SPGI innovations and changes.
Yes, Chief, I hope that allays the fears of our court personnel. Chief, it has also been reported that the Supreme Court will be moving to Bulacan Aero City. Is this transfer part of the SPJI?
Sabihin natin kasama ito sa SPJI. Sapagkat ang SPJI, sinasabi natin outcomes, efficiency, innovation, and access. Building a green court that is technologically capable will guarantee these outcomes. And it is high time that the Supreme Court builds a home truly its own.
Chief, what is the timeline for this move?
Hopefully, within 5 years, we will be able to complete the move of the Supreme Court to this facility in Bulacan. In fact, the committee responsible for this is working hard right now to ensure that we start this project within the year.
Chief, do we have plans for our staff if we move to Bulacan?
Maraming plano para sa mga empleyado natin kung tayo lilipat sa Bulacan. In fact, kung maalala nyo, sa pamamagitan ni Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen, nagkaroon tayo ng Memorandum of Agreement sa Pag-ibig upang maisiguro na kung sakali man kailangan lumipat ng ating mga kawani sa Bulacan, ay mayroong mga pasalidad na maaaring gamitin para makasiguro na ang ating mga empleyadong lilipat o i-relocate ay may pagkakataon makabili ng sariling bahay o tirahan na malapit sa bagong Korte Suprema sa Bulacan. Makakaasa kayo na hindi kayo pababayad ng Supreme Court. Lagi yung mga empleyado natin ay laging kabahagi sa plano under the SPJI.
Chief, what about the Court of Appeals, the Sandigan Bayan, and the Court of Tax Appeals? Will they be transferring too?
In the ultimate, all collegiate courts will be part of the judiciary complex that we're planning to put up in the 25-hectare land property that we acquired in Bulacan. It will be considered as the judicial complex that will house all the appellate courts in the country.
So we have another question here. Is it true that the SPJI will be asked in the 2025 bar exams?
Alam nyo yung pagtatanong sa bar exams, pinapaubayan natin yun sa bar chairperson sa bawat taon. So kung sa isip at pananaw ni Bar Chair 2025 Justice Amila sa Javier, nakarapat dapat itanong SPJI, hindi ako tututol dyan.
How about, sir, sa free judicature program? Will the SPJI be included in the program for those who want to apply to the judiciary?
Pagdating sa free judicature program, hinihiling ko sa PhilJAR na laging kabahagi ito ng kanilang mga programa. Sapagkat mahalagang malaman ng mga huwes o empleyado na pupunta sa Korte Suprema, ano ba yung SPJI para malaman nila kung saan sila lulugar under the SPJI at kung ang pinakang mas importante, paano sila makakatulong para ipatupad ang SPJI sapagkat magiging bahagi sila ng hudikatura. Ang importante, alam nilang kanilang papel na gagampanan para matupad ang mga proyekto under the SPJI.
That's right, Chief. Now, Chief, as we embark on the third year of the SPJI, which milestones are you most happy with? We know the Supreme Court has achieved a lot already, but can you name maybe one or two that you consider the most significant and why?
Alam mo, Atty. Camille, masasabi ko na halos lahat ng bagay under the SPJI ay naumpisa na sa nakaraang mga 2 taon at kalahati. At malaking bahagi ang ginawa ng bawat maestrado. Alam mo naman, yung under the SPJ, napakarami nating mga programa. Hinati-hati natin yan sa mga committee. At bawat justice ng Supreme Court ngayon ay may pinamumuno ang mga committee. Hindi lang isa, minsan 2 o 3, 4 pa. So lahat ng mga committee na under the SPJI, to implement the SPJI, ginagawa yan ng ating mga bawat isang maestrado. Nakakatuwa sapagkat lahat sila ay busy at aktibo para yung mga proyektong nakaatas sa kanila ay matupad. Mga ilang bagay ang importanteng masasabi ko na achieve na natin. One is with the e-court system under the Committee on Computerization of Library under Sarge Jonen. Ngayon, alam niyo naman, nag-implement na tayo, nagpa-pilot test na tayo ng e-court version 2. Inumpisa natin sa 4 na lugar ng isang proposed provider na kung paano natin i-implement yung case management system program under e-court version 2. At ito ay tumatakbo na ngayon. Hopefully, sa ilang buwan ay meron na naman isang kumpanya na mag-o-offer sa atin yung proof of concept na tinatawag kung ano naman pwede na ipakita sa atin, same case management program. So yan, ang importante na achieve natin so far, among others. Ang isa pang mahalaga na nagawa natin under the SPJI ay yung tinatawag nating pag-create ng mga ORCM, yung Office of Regional Court Manager. Prioridad dyan sapagkat alam natin na marami tayong naging problema nung nakaraan yung administrative operation ng courts. So nahirapan ng mga huwes natin, masyado silang naaabala sa mga bagay na administratibo. Hindi sila makapokus sa kanilang primary function which is adjudication. So ang ginawa natin under the SPJI, naglagay tayo ng mga ORCM. Sa bawat judicial region, meron na tayong ORCM. Nag-pilot test na tayo sa ilang region at mukha namang maayos ang naging resulta. Bakit natin ginagawa ito? Sapagkat sinabi ko nga, alisin natin yung administrative responsibility sa mga huwes. Na-aksya ang mga oras nila sa mga problemang hindi naman dapat na pinoproblema. Halimbawa, yung mga lease contract, pagbabayad ng kuryente at tubig sa mga courthouses, hindi dapat yung pinoproblema yon. So, sa consultant na binigay sa atin ng mga suggestion, ito ang gawin natin. I-reorganize natin yung OCA operations. Mag-create tayo ng regional court offices. Parang devolution of power. Para yung mga administrative issue na kailangan i-address immediately, merong RCM na madaling tutugon. So, mapapabilis ang mga proseso natin sa mga bagay na administratibo. Yan ay isa sa pangalawang bagay na magandang nangyari sa SPJI. Ang pangatlong bagay na nangyaring maganda sa under the SPJI ay nagkaroon tayo ng universal healthcare coverage. Alam mo, nung umpisa nakalagay dun sa programa, CJ Cares. Pero pinabago ko yan. Sabi ko, Supreme Court Cares. At ang isa sa prioridad na project lang ay makakuha tayo ng medical coverage sa buong hudikatura, sa lahat ng empleyado ng hudikatura, pamula sa pinakamababang empleyado hanggang sa pinakamataas na opisyal ng hudikatura. At yan ay nangyari sa pamumuno ni Justice Mario Lopez sa kanyang Committee on Health and Wellness. Maganda yan sapagkat ngayon may sisiguran natin na bawat kawani ng ating sa hudikatura ay nagkakaroon ng physical at annual exam. Hindi lang yan, importante din yung mental wellness. Nasisiguran natin na ang ating mga kawani at opisyali sa hudikatura ay mayroong pribilehyo na makapagpa-check up, hindi lang physical, equally important their mental situation or mental conditions.
We thank you very much for this, Chief. And I'm sure all the justices and judges here and the court employees are likewise very much thankful to you and to the justices for the Unified HMO, as nakakatulong ito very much so. Now, Chief, I know this is a critical issue for you. How do we monitor and evaluate our performance, whether we are meeting the goals of the SPJI, especially given the evolving needs and challenges in the judiciary?
Okay. Magandang tanong yan. Attorney Camille, how do we manage to evaluate and monitor our performance? Part of the SPJI, when we conceptualize this, is that immediately we created what we call the SC Management Committee. This is an interim committee in the sense that sila in the meantime nagmo-monitor at nag-evaluate ng mga na-accomplish natin under the SPJI. But the long-term goal under the SPJI is we will create an office, a permanent office, what we call Strategic Planning and Development Office. Sila yung titingin para may pagpatuloy mga aktibidades under the SPGI. Hindi natatapos ang SPGI sa 2027. Ang pagpabago at reforma at innovation sa judiciary will always continue para tayo ay makahabol so that we can keep up with the changes that's happening around us. Ang magiging responsable dyan ay yung tinatawag nating Strategic Planning and Development Office. Interim man pa lang yan pangalan, but the core thing is that there will be an office in the Supreme Court, a permanent office that will ensure the continuity of the SPJI and keep along the developments and inform the court, we have to do this, we have to do that because these are the things that's happening. May-evaluate yung performance natin at the moment kasi nakikita ng Management Committee kung saan tayo naiiwan, kung aling part ng SPJ ang hindi natutugunan, saan tayo natapos na, saan dapat tayo mag-focus to continue those projects or activities under the SPJ. Meron tayong current interim committee, management committee. Makita mo yan, ang halos bumubuo niyan. Lahat ng maestrado, lahat ng head of offices sa Supreme Court proper at mga kinatawan ng bawat opisina sa mga iba-ibang opisina ng Korte Suprema.
But Chief, right now, what is your utmost priority under the SPJI?
Well, basically, ang pinakang-prioridad, at least bago ako mag-retire, up to 2026, makumpleto natin yung case management system sa lahat ng trial courts. Pinakamahalaga yan sapagkat doon makikita ng mga taong nakikipagtransaksyon sa korte ano ang magagawa ng teknolohiya. Halimbawa, for example, nagawa natin yung e-court system version 2.0 na palaganap natin ang paggamit ng case management sa buong bansa. Napakaginhawa niyan sa ating mga stakeholders. Hindi lamang sa mga taong labas ng hudikatura, mas importante ang mga empleyado at opisyalis na nasa loob ng hudikatura. Sapagkat hindi na mahirapan, for example, yung mga huwes natin, magawa ng mga kung ano mga report. Hindi nakakailanganin yun kasi mabe-verify kung paano nagtatrabaho isang huwes o isang empleyado, gagamitin lang natin yung technology. Makikita natin sa ating mga databases kung anong kaso ang pinakamatagal, aling station ng court ang pinakamaraming pending na kaso, saan lugar mabagal, yan mga bagay na kaya gusto kong makumpleto yung e-court version 2, case management in particular.
And Chief, would you consider this priority project as your legacy project under the SPJI?
Alam mo, kami hindi importante sa akin yung legacy. Wala naman ako iniisip na para sa sarili ko na tapos na yan eh. Nandito na ako sa Chief Justice. So, ang importante sa akin, ano ba yung magagawa ko para sa Supreme Court? At anong may iiwan ko sa mga kasamahan ko ditong maestrado na dapat yung ipagpatuloy at bigyan pahalaga.
Chief, given what we have achieved so far, how do we sustain these gains, especially after your term as Chief Justice or even after the period beyond 2027?
Alam mo kami, nung unang binubuo yung SPJI na yan, ang timetable na nilagay ko, SPJI from 2022 to 2026. Nang ipinresinta ko yan sa NBAC, ang sabi sa akin ng mga maestrado, palitan natin yung timeline ng CJ. Anong gusto niya? Sabi ko, kasi hanggang 2026 na ang termino. Ang sagot nila sa akin, lagyan natin ng beyond 2026. Sabi ko, bakit beyond 2026? Kasi gusto namin isiguro sa'yo na kung anong iniwan mo, ipagpapatuloy namin. Ang SPGI is not up to 2027 if you look at it realistically. Because change, innovation, everything, must continue. We cannot afford to maintain a status quo at one point in time. Innovation, changes must cope up with what is being demanded of the judiciary at the particular moment. So ang trabaho nga ng strategic planning developments, sila yung mag-isip kung ano mga pagbabagong kailangan ng gawin ng hudikatura sa bawat taon na dumaraan para tayo ay makakope up at matugunan natin yung mga hinihingi na ng mga bagong mga pagbabago sa mga darating na taon. Sila yung magsasabi sa mga maestrado na ito na po ang mga nagbabago sa teknolohiya, ito na po nagbabago sa mga sistema, kailangan pong baguhin natin ang mga polisiya na hindi naangko sa panahong ito. Yan ang purpose nun. So nakakasiguro ako na ang ating mga pagbabago ay magtutuloy-tuloy. Nariyan yung mga maestrado, mga bata pa na may iiwan. So nangako sila, may commitment sila na ipagpapatuloy nila ang SPJI. They may call it another name by 2027, but it will not matter. What is crucial is that they have the commitment to continue the changes in innovation to provide a better administration of justice to our country and to our people.
Thank you very much, Chief, especially for this opportunity to interview you and for the justice and judges to be able to hear your thoughts and to get up close and personal with you. Now, do you have any message you would like to share with them before we...
Well, unang-una gusto ko magpasalamat sa Philippine Women Judges Association, its President Justice Ami Javier and its Vice President Justice Munet Singh, and all its officers and members for dedicating this convention to the cause of supporting the SPJI. You are our frontliners, not just in our adjudication duties, but in our reform agenda as well. None of these activities would have been possible if not for our judges, because these are programs designed for you, with your courts in mind to capacitate you to serve our people and more efficiently. Malawak ang papel na ginampanan ng Philippine Women Judges Association sa pagsuporta dito sa mga reformang ginagawa natin sa SPJI. Ang mga aktibidades na nagawa natin dahil sa suporta ng mga huwes natin, lalong-lalo na yung mga judges natin sa trial courts, both the first and second level courts. Ang masasabi ko lamang sa mga miyembro ng PWJ, ipagpatuloy nila ang kanilang dedikasyon sa pagpapatupad ng mga proyekto under the SPJ sapagkat ito ay hindi lamang para sa kanila, sigit sa lahat para sa mamamayang Pilipino. Huwag nating kalilimutan na tayo ay nasa hudikatura, na tayo ayon sa ating saligang batas ay kinakailangang merong 4 virtues na dapat hindi natin kalimutan. We must have competence, integrity, probity, and independence. So habang pinopromote natin ang SPJI, huwag natin kalilimutan ang mga nakahata sa ating tungkulin at paano natin tutuparin ang ating mga katungkulan. So let us continue promoting the SPJI in no time at all. We reap the benefits of our hard work.
Thank you, Chief.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang PWJA.
And that's our latest podcast episode. Here's Tiff Atendido Beltran, Supreme Court Information Officer, for this week's Roundup.
This week at the Supreme Court. We begin with an update on the petition seeking to stop former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's arrest and transfer to the International Criminal Court, or ICC, in The Hague. The Supreme Court, by a majority vote, found that petitioners Duterte and Senator Ronald De La Rosa failed to establish a clear and unmistakable right for the immediate issuance of a temporary restraining order, or TRO. Duterte and De La Rosa filed a petition on Tuesday, March 11, against Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and other government officials, challenging the detention of the former president in compliance with the warrant of arrest issued by the ICC. The SCS directed the respondents to comment on the petition for certiorari and prohibition, with prayer for TRO and a writ of preliminary injunction within 10 days from notice. On Wednesday, March 12, the Supreme Court received 3 separate writ of habeas corpus petitions filed by Sebastian Z. Duterte, Veronica A. Duterte, and Paolo Z. Duterte, seeking the release of their father, former President Duterte. On March 13, the Court en banc unanimously resolved to consolidate the petitions for habeas corpus filed against Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and other government officials. The Court directed respondents to show cause within 24 hours from receipt of notice why the writ of habeas corpus should not be issued. The Court en banc has approved the rules on electronic notarization, or the e-notarization rules, which leverages technology to make notarial services more accessible and efficient. E-notarization supplements the traditional mode of notarization under the 2004 rules on notarial practice. While printed documents continue to be governed by the 2004 rules, the e-notarization rules will govern notarization of electronic documents, which could either be done in person or remotely. Aside from the e-notarization rules, the SC also approved the guidelines on accreditation of electronic notarization facility providers under AM number 24-10-14-SC. These rules introduce electronic notaries public who are authorized to perform notarial acts for individuals located anywhere in the Philippines and in certain cases even abroad. The e-notarization rules takes effect 15 days after its publication on March 9, 2025. The SCS also ruled that failing to conduct a proper and thorough investigation in cases of enforced or involuntary disappearance violates or threatens a person's right to life, liberty, and security. Investigations must be serious and effective, not just a mere formality. In a decision written by Associate Justice Japar B. de Maampao, the SC en banc granted the privilege of a writ of amparo to the family of Henry V. Tayo Jr., who went missing after being detained at Bacolod City Police Station 8 for theft. The SC declared the police responsible and accountable for Tayo's enforced disappearance and ordered them to produce all relevant documents and materials connected to the case. The case was remanded to the Regional Trial Court for implementation of the SC's orders. In another decision, the SC has emphasized that sheriffs, when serving the court's writs and processes and implementing its orders, must perform their duties with the utmost care and diligence, as any mistake affects the administration of justice. In a ponencia by Senior Associate Justice Marvic M.V.F. Leonen, the SC en banc dismissed Vicente S. Sicat Jr. for repeatedly failing to properly perform his duties as sheriff in the office of the Clerk of Court of the Regional Trial Court, Angeles City, Pampanga. The SC stressed that sheriffs must strictly adhere to procedural rules to ensure the proper enforcement of court orders, and that any deviation from these procedures can undermine the administration of justice and warrants disciplinary action. In another case, the SC has modified the penalty for an accused charged with slight physical injuries and unjust fixation from imprisonment of 30 days to community service. It applied the Community Service Act, which seeks to improve public work participation and promote public service in line with the state's policy to promote restorative justice and decongest jails. In a resolution written by Associate Justice Ami C. Lazaro Javier, the SC 2nd Division granted the motion of an accused convicted by the SC for slight physical injuries and unjust fixation. Instead of the 30-day total imprisonment for slight physical injuries and unjust fixation, 5,000 pesos in moral damages, and a 200 peso fine imposed by the Metropolitan Trial Court, the SC applied the Community Service Act in this case, even though the accused was convicted prior to its effectivity on August 8, 2019. The SC reiterated that penal laws are applied retroactively when favorable to the accused unless they are habitual criminals. Meanwhile, on March 10, Chief Justice Alexander G. Esmundo administered the oath of office to PNP Brigadier General Manuel R. Garlan as the first Chief Marshal of the newly established Office of the Judiciary Marshals, or OJM. Chief Marshal Garlan will head the OJM and lead efforts to ensure the security of judges, court personnel, and judiciary properties across the country. The OJM was established under Republic Act No. 11691, or the Judiciary Marshals Act, to address increasing threats against members of the judiciary. The court, led by Senior Associate Justice Leonen and Associate Justice Lazaro Javier, also held an information dissemination campaign on eCourt PH 2.0, particularly on electronic filing or e-filing for the 6th Judicial Region in Iloilo City on March 11 and in Bacolod City on March 13. The program included an orientation on e-filing, a lecture on Rule 13-A, or the interim rule on the electronic filing and service of pleadings, judgments, and other papers in civil cases, and a presentation on the e-library. Saj Leonen and Justice Lazaro Javier also conducted a court visit to the Hall of Justice of Bacolod City on March 13. On the same day, Associate Justices Rodil V. Zalameda and Jose Maidas P. Marquez led the inauguration and blessing of the new Hall of Justice of RTC Bacoor in Cavite. They also held a dialogue on eCourt PH 2.0 with judges and court personnel of Judicial Region 4A. Finally, the Office of the 2025 Bar Examinations Chairperson, Associate Justice Lazaro Javier, has reminded prospective examinees that the application for the 2025 bar exams will end on Monday, March 17 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's your Supreme Court this week. I am Tiffet Indidoblatran, Supreme Court Information Officer.
And that's our podcast this week. Join us again next time for a detailed discussion of initiatives and select cases decided by the Supreme Court. I'm Attorney Mike Navalio, your Supreme Court Chief Communications Officer. You can catch this podcast on the Supreme Court Public Information Office's accounts on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also catch previous editions on our website and on Spotify. This podcast episode was produced by the Supreme Court Public Information Office with Attorney Karen Martinez, Jay Rimpilio, and May Sibal as researchers, Don Ryan Balza, Victor Laranio, Brian Austria, and Lawrence Olanyo as sound editors, and Tyke Flores and Jerome Batumalake as web editors.